everyone. Welcome to Brave Souls. Happy Thursday. So tonight we have a very lovely guest coming on with me. She is a voice for the voiceless. She is a founder of Candle in a Dark Room. She's a founding member of Badass Do-Gooders and an ambassador of Buddha Bullying, my dear friend Desarae Garcia. So as soon as Desi comes on, she'll request to join in and we will get started shortly. Hi, Mima Life. Hello, welcome. Hi, Zoe. Welcome. Oh, hi, Desi's mom. Hello. I'm so glad you can join. We are just waiting for your daughter. Okay. Desi joined. I'm doing well, Zoe. How are you? And I'm going live with Desi any second.
Hi, sorry to shut my door. Sorry, I couldn't get it to connect, so I was having an issue. I
That's
always
okay.
forget I can only do it on my phone and not my laptop. So I
No
had my
worries.
laptop all set up, and then I was like, oh wait. And for some reason, my stand I got is really high. I can't figure out how to lower it, y'all. I'm not good at this kind of stuff. So, we're just gonna make it work. Okay.
Hi, Jim. Hi, Amber. Welcome.
Hello, everyone.
So I introduced you as the voice for the voiceless, and you're wearing your shirt.
I know. I figured it was kind of, a good time to wear it.
Absolutely.
But
I'm very casual.
That's okay. I've been like that all day. I've been cleaning, so I'm not.
Well, I planned on glamming up. Well, I did this, but I was just like, no, I'm good. Hi, everyone.
Thanks for having me on.
Of course. I'm so glad you could be on with me.
Yes, thank you.
Jenna, Kevin, hi, Anastasia.
Kylie. Buddha Bullying.
Buddha Bullying, hello.
Hello.
Anna, hi. I'm going to give it like one more minute. Wait for more people to come on.
Okay.
Jacqueline, hello. How was your day, Des?
Oh, busy. Yeah, it's been a busy week. Today hasn't been too bad. Today's mostly just been like a lot of calls, but then I've just been cleaning and, just normal mom stuff.
Of course.
But yeah,
it doesn't stop.
Interesting day, that's for sure.
Kadia, hello.
Is that how you say it? Kadia?
Kadia.
Or it might be Katie. And then that's the last name. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, hello. Welcome. Sorry, my dog's chewing his bone like super loud. So
You're fine. Okay.
Oh, we love you too, Amber.
I love you, Amber.
Show off your cute shirt to everyone.
Okay. So this is my Be a Voice for the Voiceless shirt. And y'all want one? Let me know. We have a lot left. We sold out, and then I went and bought another order, and then I got a lot. So
nice. I should have worn mine.
I know.
But
I
Amber
actually
basically
really
told me
did.
that I wear it too much because every time we FaceTime, she's like, "Do you ever get changed?" I was like, "I love it. But where am I gonna go?"
That's funny. No,
Yeah.
yeah, I was actually thinking you were gonna wear it. I was like, oh, she might be wearing hers.
You should have texted me. I would
I
have.
didn't even think about it. It's okay.
Oh, it's okay.
I see you wear it a lot, so
Okay. All right. I guess we get started. Oh, thank you,
yeah.
Diane. Thank you. We can get started. So everyone,
Okay.
this is my good friend Desi. I said a lot of wonderful things in the beginning, but yes, she is a voice for the voiceless, as you could tell with her shirt.
Sorry, my angle's really weird of my I can't figure out how to use my stand, so you guys are just really high right now. You can't really see my shirt.
Do you want me to lower myself?
I don't know. I feel like I don't know what to do. I guess I can lean it against my water bottle. Let me try.
Get comfortable, and then we'll start.
Let me try something because I feel like it's really awkwardly high.
Okay.
Hold on.
I'm gonna wave to whoever I didn't say hi to while you're doing that.
Let's see. Does that help? Maybe a little bit.
Feels better?
It's on a box, so hopefully it doesn't fall. That's a little bit better. Okay. There we go.
Okay.
Hi, guys.
So, yes, a voice for the voiceless, founder of Candle in a Dark Room, a founding member of Badass Do-Gooders, and an ambassador of Buddha Bullying. If I missed anything, please say.
I'm also on the Speakers Bureau for RAIN, which is a huge organization around the country. And you said Buddha Bullying, and I think that's it.
Yeah. Okay. So why don't you start off and just start sharing your story?
Yeah.
Into all the wonderful organizations.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm gonna try to make my story as real short as possible, because we could be here for a really long time. So I basically grew up my parents were divorced when I was 6, but before they got divorced, I grew up in a very toxic, abusive home. My parents their marriage relationship was not healthy or good by any means, and there was a lot of different things going on. So I definitely would say I was kind of born into trauma. I don't have very many memories of being a kid, but one of the first memories I have are of my mom and dad fighting pretty bad. And so, again, I think just being born into trauma, I think we kind of, when it's generational. And so, my family, my dad, he was abused as a child. And so it kind of just continued until I broke the cycle. So my parents got divorced when I was 6. And then my mom and dad both remarried when I was around 7-ish, I think. They both got remarried. Well, my mom and my stepdad, I talked to my dad, but my dad and my relationship was kind of rocky. I think just because I had a lot of resentment towards him for a while because of him and my mom's relationship. So my dad and my stepmom got married as well. Her and I did not get along. She was very emotionally, I wouldn't necessarily say abusive, but she just was not very nice to me at all. So I didn't feel comfortable going there. So I was always with my mom, and my mom was like my best friend. We've always been very close. But unfortunately, she met my old stepfather, who as early as 8 years old. That's the first memory I have. I don't remember necessarily the first time it started, but the first memory I have, I was 8 years old, and I remember the grooming process and the molestation, and then it kind of went from there and continued to escalate from there. Definitely he did all of the steps, the right steps, the grooming, the molesting, and then it went to the more traumatic sexual abuse. So I went through very, very intense torture, abuse for about 7 years. Things that, most people would think only happens in movies and horror movies and things like that. And, the question I get a lot is, how did your family not know? How do people not know? And I believe, as a counselor myself, I believe there's a lot of different reasons for that. One, he was a very, very good liar. He was a narcissist. He was also abusive to my mom. And so she was working 2-3 jobs, keeping food on our table, being the best mom she could be, but without actually realizing what was happening. And so he made me a very good liar. I had to learn how to brush it off. You know, it would happen. He would sometimes check me out of school. Things would happen, and then he would take me back to school. And I'd have to tell my teacher I had a doctor's appointment, and I'd have to just go on with the day with a smile on my face. And that happened for 7 years. I finally told when I was 8 years old, excuse me. I finally told when I was 15 years old. So the abuse went from age 8 to 15. Oh, sorry, it was on a box. But yeah, so the abuse went from age 8 to 15. So at 15, I finally, before I told, I had a lot of mental, because of everything that was happening and all the abuse that was going on. And again, I mean, at one point, I'm pretty sure he broke my ribs. Like, he would punch me. He would hold a pillow over my face until I would knock out, hold knives in my throat. He was a big guy. So he's very, very strong and a very scary guy. So I knew I couldn't fight back. And I kind of started, that's when I think my self-hate really started. And around 7th grade, so I think it's around like 13, 14, I started an eating disorder in 7th grade, and I started bulimia. I was bulimic, and I would sometimes kind of go back and forth. I would starve myself for a couple of weeks, and then I would be bulimic and all of that. I also started cutting. I was a huge cutter. I cut all the time. I was very good at cutting in places that a lot of people wouldn't see, except for him. And then when he would see them, I remember he would just laugh and be like, you're a dumbass, or you're an idiot, or whatever the situation. He just thought it was very funny. Then I had tried committing suicide. I had tried hanging myself. At this point, I was almost 15, and I had it. I just couldn't take it anymore. I had tried taking pills. Nothing helped. I took a lot of like painkillers to kind of just like numb my pain. And I tried a lot of different things, but just nothing worked. And so I, one night, just decided that I was done. I couldn't handle it anymore. And I tried hanging myself. My suicide stories are very crazy because for me, I believe that my higher power, God, definitely intervened because I should be dead. I took a whole bottle of pills and I only slept for 12 hours. I hung myself and the rope literally ripped in half. I was on a train track, and at one point, I mean, I don't know how to explain it because when I say it out loud, it sounds crazy, but I was standing there and I was ready, and we lived right on the track station, and I was standing on the tracks and I was waiting, and right before the train was about to hit me, I felt like I don't know if I lost my balance or tripped, or I'm not exactly sure. All I know is that somehow I tumbled and I literally rolled down and fell right as the train came. So that night when I had finally hung myself, like I said, the rope broke, and I remember being so angry and being like, I can't do anything. I can't even kill myself. Like, what is wrong with me? And just being so frustrated with everything. I didn't have a relationship with my dad at the time, like at all, unfortunately. And he was a detective. So let me kind of make that straight. Is my dad was a detective, and he actually did SVU crimes. So sex crimes, murder, things like that. And which is ironic considering the situation. But because of our history, I had already kind of put a wall up anyway. And then I think when my stepdad started doing all the things he did, I remember he threatened and he'd use my dad. I'm going to bury your dad alive. I'm going to kill your brothers, this and that. And I remember I wanted to go to my dad. I wanted to tell him, but I was scared that if I started seeing him and going there to his house regularly, he was going to figure out what was happening. And so yeah, so like I said, I remember I tried hanging myself. I went to school the next day, and I had a huge rope burn on my neck. And one of my teachers saw it, and I remember, she brought me in her office, and she's like, what happened? And I told her, again, nobody knew what was going on. So basically I was so dysfunctional. Like, my school knew I was a cutter. They knew I was bulimic. I had a lot of problems in junior high, and I was very much an attention seeker, but not necessarily because I was trying to get attention and like from my friends and stuff. I needed somebody to ask me. Are you being hurt? What is going on? And yes, my teacher did ask me, but she never like came out and asked, are you being abused or anything like
Right.
that. So I never felt like I had a window to say anything. But she knew something was going on for sure. And so they actually called my mom to come pick me up, and she was at work. And I remember he came and picked me up. And I remember he walked in the office, and I could see him walking down the hallway. And I remember we walked away, and I remember he said, "You're an effing dumbass." And just smiling, just like thinking I'm an idiot. And I remember like thinking, I'm dead. Like he's going to kill me. There's no way. People are starting to catch on that something's wrong. And so he's going to kill me. He made it very, very clear on a regular basis that if I ever told, I would be dead. And either I would be dead or my family would be dead. And he was the kind of guy that, I mean, he had a no fear tattoo. Like he wasn't really scared of anything. And so he had nothing to lose. And so one day, this was probably about 2 weeks later, I remember kind of I was laying in bed and we had just moved, and I had just got for the very first time, like I said, I was about 15, and I had just got my mom to let me get a lock on my door. I had always slept with my brother. I told my mom I had nightmares, so I would sleep with my brother. I would sleep against the wall because we had a bunk bed, but then I would make my brother sleep next to me. But in my head, I was protecting myself because if there was a wall, he couldn't get to me on this side. And if my brother was here, then he'd protect, he wouldn't be able to move my brother. That wasn't the case. He always seemed to get to me. And so that when I had got a lock on my door, I remember being like, holy crap, I can finally breathe. I had insomnia really bad. So I would watch TV Land. I watched the Nanny with Van Drescher. I remember I watched Golden Girls and all of those old, like Cheers. I would watch like all of those old school movies on TV Land. Yeah. And I remember laying there and I heard a knock on the door in my bedroom. And I remember I just froze, and I could hear him on the other side saying, open the door, Debbie, open the door. And I did not breathe. I remember I just kind of I don't think I took a breath that entire time, which I don't know how long it was. I mean, I feel like it was forever, but it could have been 5-10 minutes. But I remember he was like, open the effing door. And he was like, but he was whispering it because of course my mom and my brothers were all asleep. And he was trying to pick the lock and couldn't figure it out. And I just did not move. Finally, he gave up and walked away. And that was the night when I believe my higher power gave me the strength to say something, because I really don't think I would have been alive much longer. I could feel it. I could feel that I wasn't going to make it. Like I never thought I would be where I am today because I never could picture a future. I thought I would be dead before that. So I ran to school the next day as fast as I could. And I went to that same teacher and I told her, and I said, I don't remember the exact words I said, but something to the effect of, my stepdad's sexually abusing me and I need help. If I go home, he's going to kill me. And she went and told the office, reported it. Because of my dramatic school history, I got in a lot of fights. I was in the principal's office a lot. I was very rebellious and not a very good child in school. And so the principals and stuff didn't take me very seriously. And I remember it was the school counselor. And I remember she told my teacher, she's just looking for attention again. This isn't probably true. And I remember my teacher, and I remember hearing her, and she said, that's not our job to make that decision. It's our job to report what she's telling us, and we need to report it. Something's going on with her, and we need to help her. And sure enough, she called the detective in. The detective came in, questioned me, everything, went to the house, got him to leave. They couldn't arrest him right away because of evidence and everything. Once they finally arrested him about a week later, I ended up having to take a rape kit, DNA, and a lie detector test to show that I guess I wasn't lying.
You had to take a lie detector test?
Yeah, they had me take a lie detector test. I'm not exactly sure to this day why. I don't know. I mean, he denied it, of course, but I don't understand necessarily how and why they did what they did.
Your word should have been enough.
Right. And yeah, so I took the lie detector test, and I remember that moment getting that call because I passed with flying colors, but my old stepdad did not pass, but he did not fail. His was inconclusive. And I remember being so confused, and I was like crying. I was like, how is that possible? Like, how did he not fail? And I remember the detective telling me, people like him are so sick and have been sick for so long, they believe their own lies. In his head, he loved me. In his head, we had a relationship. He was protecting me. He was this and that. He didn't realize the damage. He knew, but he didn't realize the damage that he was doing with abuse. And so he basically believed his own lies. And finally, they arrested him. I had to go to court. Whole court process was kind of a crazy shit show. At some point, I was an emotional mess at this point. Everything had kind of, I think, that I had been holding for 7 years. Finally, like my mental state, you guys, like honestly, that time is such a blur. Like I literally just don't feel like it was my life. Like I feel like it's a movie I saw years and years ago. And I remember bits and pieces of the movie. I don't remember very many specific details. This is kind of things that I've heard from my mom. So I guess basically my mom and dad, after I reported my stepdad and all this happened, my dad came back into my life, apologized for not being there. And that was the beginning of us rebuilding our relationship. And so he was at court. And I guess that they made what's it called? Plea deal, where it was, I can't remember what they did. I can't remember what the charges were, but basically he got 3 years to life. That was the deal that he got for me. So that means minimum of 3 years, maximum life. My dad and my mom both did a parent statement, victim statement. And that's what I remember, I think, threw me over the edge. My mom did hers. I remember hers was very emotional. Again, I think I was very disassociated at the time. Mm-hmm. But I remember my dad's, because I remember my dad, again, he was a detective. So he faced perpetrators in court head on with rapists and murderers all the time. This is what he did. But I remember you looked at my stepdad and said, "You effing look at me when I'm talking to you. You did this to my daughter." And it started in the courtroom, became like a very loud, not necessarily physically aggressive, but aggressive. Like he was like he was like yelling in his face. And I remember John wouldn't look up and he was just looking down in handcuffs and shackles. And that was just one of the most terrifying moments of my life, because it was terrifying, but then freeing at the same time. It was kind of a mixture of things, but it's terrifying because the person that I had been a slave to, the person that I had to literally had to do everything for and to for the last 7 years, that not one soul, not my best friend, not one soul that I ever knew was happening. This man was in shackles and he was standing in front of me, and I could literally smell him. I could feel him. I could smell him, and I remember I just literally couldn't get that out of my pores. Like I could just feel him, and it was a horrible feeling. And so my dad yelled at him. I remember I ran out of the courtroom, and it sounds like a very dramatic scene, but I remember I ran out of the courtroom and I literally just fell to the ground. And I remember just bawling and just saying, like, I can't do this. Like, I can't do this anymore. I don't think I'm strong enough for this. And, sorry, it makes me emotional when I think about that day, just because that day was such a crazy time. But I remember the judge came out, or the detective, or I'm sorry, not the detective. What is he called? The cop that's with the judge. What are they called? They're called something that stands by the judge's thing.
I know.
Anyway, he came and got me, and I remember he said, "The judge wants you." And I remember walking in there and shaking, literally shaking from the inside out. And I remember she said, and she looked at me and she said, "I want you to see this man get put away for what he did to you." And she sentenced him 3 to life, like I said. Bailiff, yes, thanks, Mom. My mom's on here, which I wish she was here with me, because my mom has been through a lot too, and that's what makes it hard, is we've been through definitely a lot as a family. And my heart always hurts for her to hear this stuff, because I mean, imagine, like, this is your daughter and your ex-husband and all of those things, and that's heavy and it's a lot. But my mom really is like the strongest person I know. So again, they sentenced him and he ended up getting put away in jail. Right after he was sent to jail, I kind of went on a downward spiral. My mom and I relationship was very bad at that time. She'll attest to that. We would fight all the time. I think she had a lot of anger, and not necessarily towards me, but she had just lost her husband. Because she lost her husband, she lost her house. And because she lost her house, it was a ripple effect. We lost so many different things because of my choice to tell. You know what I mean? And even though obviously it wasn't my fault, in my head, this was my little brother's dad. My little brother was 3 years old. And the last thing my little brother remembers is playing Legos with his dad. and then the cops came and took him away. And that's something I have to carry all the time, is that the last memory that my brother has is playing Legos with his dad. And he didn't know who this evil man was. He just thought he was a normal dad. And our whole lives, all of our lives, what came crashing down in that moment. And so I had a lot of guilt. I had a lot of guilt that I literally couldn't even deal with. Like, I couldn't deal with the guilt that I took my brother's dad away, that I took my mom's husband away, that we lost our house that we finally built and bought. We had to get rid of our 2 puppies, like just things that were so small but so big at that time. So yeah, I went in a downward spiral with my mom and my relationship. We fought all the time. It was very toxic. I would, physically like push her. Like, I just was not a very nice person. I hated the world. The world was evil. The world was dark, and I wanted nothing to do with it. I wanted to basically say F all of you, and I'm going to do what I want now and whatever.
You had a right to feel that way.
I went to school. After everything happened, I was already getting pretty bullied because I was awkward and because I didn't have very good social skills because of everything that was happening to me. But I started sexually acting out with boys at school. At that point, I remember being like, what's the point? Like, I'm already damaged anyway. What's the point? Why not do things with boys? Because it's going to get me the attention of, whatever. And so I remember that feeling of just being like, screw it. Like, I have nothing else to lose. And so I was getting bullied at school by girls, and I had gotten a fight in the lunchroom and whatever. Well, I went to school one day, and I remember the girl who I fought in the lunchroom one time, she yells in the hallway, Desi likes to have sex with her dad. And I don't remember how it even got out. I don't remember how the story even got. I don't remember how people even found out what happened and how my story came out. But people found out, and it was all over the school. And the boy who I had liked, who I had been hooking up with, found out, and it was just devastating. And so we ended up moving a little bit far away and started a new school. Same thing. I was literally the only brown girl in this white girl school, which, no offense, but I really was. I was like one of the only brown girls. And so I felt like I stuck out like a sore thumb. And I was awkward. I was in the middle of my eating disorder. It was just a shit show. And so finally, at one point, I lost it on my mom and ran away. And when I ran away, I actually went to my dad's and my old stepmom's house. And I remember my dad just saying, like, we can't help you. Like, we and your mom have to get you in somewhere. We have to get you in. We have to get you help. And I remember seeing, like, if you don't, I'm going to be dead before I'm 18 years old. Like, I just knew it. And so they looked at ranches. They looked at all these different things for me. And they ended up at a treatment program here in Utah called, it's part of Primary Children's Behavioral Health. It just recently closed about 2 years ago, but it was a residential treatment program. I ended up living there for 2 years, residential program. I would start to go to day treatment. I would go home and I would relapse. I would start to do this and I would go home and I would relapse. And so basically just continuously for 2 years, I was just in residential. So while I was there, I ended up at 16 years old, I ended up getting diagnosed with what's called DID, which is dissociation identity disorder. So I was diagnosed with major anxiety, major depression, borderline personality disorder, bipolar, dissociation disorder. I can't remember what else. The bipolar and the borderline personality disorder were not accurate. I actually did not have those, but they didn't know I had DID at the time. So if you don't know what DID is, it's basically, there's 2 different things that can happen. So you can either get multiple personalities or you disassociate. I've never had multiple personalities, but I would disassociate. A lot of people get the multiple personalities because they have a personality for each phase of their life, of their trauma. For me, that's not what happened. Basically what happened is, I don't know if you ever watched That So Raven, but when she were younger, so remember how she would have a vision and she'd like stare off into space and have her, yeah. So like literally that is what would happen to me. Sorry, I play with my hair when I'm nervous.
Okay.
So that's what happened.
I'll play my hair with you.
I'm like, that's why my hair, like, I have to wash it all
Everyone
the time.
plays your hair.
But yeah, so my therapist at the time, she would say that she always knew when I was going to go into a dissociative episode, because my leg would start shaking, like, you know, when people tap their leg and like shake it, it would start doing that super, super, super fast. And then I would just stare off and then I would be gone and I would go off in a thing. And then I'd come back and I would be 8 years old. I'd be 9 years old. I'd be whatever age. So when I was young, until I was probably like 11, maybe, I couldn't say my R's. I would say girls. I would, scissors. Like I couldn't say my R's ever. And so that's how my therapist would know that I was back into that time, because I wouldn't be able to talk. I would cry for my mom. I would say I didn't know her. I would be lost. I'd be hiding in a corner saying that that he's going to get me, that I'm in trouble. It's just crazy, because I have an 8-year-old. My son's 8. And when I think of like the things that I said and did and the stuff that my old therapist would tell me, I was so stuck in like 5, 6-year-old stage. I think I was I was still in like that. I was very young for how old I was because of what was happening to me. So an 8-year-old, I was more like a 5-year-old hiding in a corner from my stepfather in my head. So basically I would literally reenact the like physical moment of my trauma. I'd be being held down. My face would turn blue because in my memory, he's holding a pillow over my face. So I'd stop breathing. I would get punched so hard in the stomach, I'd lose like my breath, like someone just knocked the wind out of me. I'd come out of it and I'd feel physically pain in my body as if he just hurt me, as if he just abused me. I would feel my wrists would be sore. I'd have like bruised like wrists because I thought he was holding me down. Things like that my body literally thought it was happening. And so my body was reacting as if it was happening. This is a very rare disorder. Only 1% of the population has it. It's not very common at all. It is basically so what I've been told, if you listen to my podcast, I interviewed a doctor who specializes in this, and it's people who do this are actually very intelligent because their brain can separate trauma from reality. And so that was when my body protected itself. I couldn't handle what he was doing to me on a regular basis, every day almost, that the only way I could be normal and go to school and hang out with my friends and do the things I was doing was to completely have another identity. So when that would happen to me, I had no recollection. So 2 or 3 hours of my time would be go missing. And I'd come out of it and I'd be like, whoa, what happened? And they'd have to tell me and, whatever. I have no memory whenever that happens. I completely lose memory of it. So all of the things I'm telling you, I've been told by doctors, therapists, video. My mom they'd have to call my mom and she'd have to come sit there and watch me reenact because I'd be crying for her. And so she'd have to sit there and watch me reenact the abuse that her ex-husband had done. And so it was just a very traumatic thing. Finally, I got out when I was 17 and met my husband. I moved out of state of Utah by myself at 17. My mom and my relationship still wasn't very good. I didn't want to go back to school. I just was done with like living in Utah. And, living in Utah, our culture is very, we have a lot of LDS people, and it's hard to be the odd one out. Like you stick out pretty clearly. I just didn't want people to know. I didn't want to move and have people find out what happened. So anyway, I moved out at 17, met my husband, and then kind of just from there put a Band-Aid on my life. I left that hospital. I remember my mom always tells me that she remembers them bringing my mom in and so the people at Private Children's had to call a doctor in California to diagnose me because they had no idea what I had. They couldn't figure out because, again, it was so rare. They didn't know what was wrong with me. When they finally did diagnose me, they came and sat my mom down and they said, Desi is going to be gone. She's going to be in a mental hospital for the rest of her life. She will be on medication and she will never live a normal life. She will never be able to drive a car. She'll never be able to do anything. And the reason is because when I was 8, I couldn't drive a car. So if I was driving and disassociated and I had a dissociative disorder episode, I would wreck. I'd hurt somebody, hurt myself because I didn't know how to drive when I was 8. I wouldn't be able to have children. My body, was jacked up. I had a lot of internal damage that my doctor said, like, you're most likely to never have children. So there's just lots of different things that I'm not supposed to be normal. When I left there, I literally left with one of those big freezer bag, sandwich bag looking things full of medications that I had to take daily. And so I put a Band-Aid on it. I lived for about 10 years. I ended up having my son. I did end up having five miscarriages and an ectopic pregnancy. So I ended up having to do emergency surgery and remove one tube because it had burst. And I ended up having my son and my daughter with one tube. So both of my kids are miracles. So at one point this was, let's see, 5 years ago. So my son was 3. My daughter had just, or I guess almost 6 years ago, my daughter had just been born. And I was told that John was going to be up for parole and he was going to be released. He was in there for only 10 years. The only reason why he ended up getting 10 years, he would have been in there for only like maybe 5. But the reason he got 10 years was because he got an attempted murder charge on his cellmate. He tried to kill a cellmate, broke his jaw, like all kinds of things. And so he got more charges. So technically, what he did to me, he only got 5 years for. I found out he was going to get out. I went to the parole hearing and tried to keep him in. And unfortunately, that did not work. They let him out. And again, because I had a Band-Aid on it for so many years, I started kind of going downward spiral again. I did figure it out. I started seeing a therapist, all of that. And that's when when I was 20 years old and moved back to Salt Lake City from New Mexico, I actually became a psych tech. And then that's where I started my journey of being a counselor since I was 20. And then I kind of had just progressed since then. So I've now been a counselor and crisis worker for 11 years. But like I said, all of a sudden I was trying to go back into life again, even though I knew he was released and he was walking out on the street and I could run into him anytime. And I remember literally throughout the last 5 years, I'd see him. I swear I would see him. I'd be like, I swear that was him in Costco. I swear I just saw him driving. I did have a specific memory where I was driving, and I remember this was probably like probably about a year after he was released, if that, not even that much. I was driving on the freeway and there's construction, and I looked to my right and we were at a stop, and he was next to me in a car. And I remember he saw me and he got behind me, but because we were in a construction zone, he was stuck behind me. And I remember I was frozen. My daughter was in the car, and I called my therapist on speed dial, and I was like, he's behind me. What do I do? That day, I remember I remember looking in my mirror and looking down. And I remember seeing him looking down and writing something down. Well, I believe that's the day he got my license plate number and looked up looked up all my information. Because from that day on, I would see him, like I said, I would see him at Costco. I'd see him just like random places, but I would try to tell people, and I was told, it's your PTSD. I tried telling my parents. My parents were both like, why would he come back and bother you now that he's been out? Like he probably is trying to get his life together. Like it's not him. It's just your PTSD coming back because he's out, whatever. Well, last year, I get a call from a detective who said, hey, John was rearrested, which he had already been rearrested for like not checking in with his parole officer, things like that. But then he'd be released 48 hours later. So he's like, John was arrested again, but he was arrested for child pornography. And I was like, oh, okay, well, thanks for telling me. And he's like, I don't know how to tell you this. He said, but we had to he was part of like an underground child pornography ring. And I guess they had like raided all of their, like the FBI had like raided all of their stuff. Well, they checked his his like computer, his phone, and then his apartment. And he said there were over 200 pictures of child pornography. And he said every single picture had your face cut out and put on every single picture. Jeez. And I was like, I remember being like, what? And I was at work. I was a crisis worker for the University of Utah. And I was standing there, and my partner looked at me, and he said, I just went white. And I was like, wait, what? And he goes, yeah, your face now, he has cut out. He has pictures of you at the park with your children. He has pictures of you walking at work. He has pictures of you at the grocery store. He has been following you for a couple of years. He says he has so many different pictures and different like places and locations of you. And your face has been cut out and put on these children. And that traumatized me for a lot of different reasons. 1, being re-victimized by him again. 2, being seen by him and knowing that he was that close to me, and not only me, but my own children. And then 3, that he put me on those freaking children who I have no idea where these children are. I don't know who's hurting them. You know what I mean? Like horrible things. He had videos of a child being abused on video, just so many different things that were just so messed up. So that was, again, during this time, I had started Candle in a Dark Room podcast, which that kind of just came and hit me one day. You need to tell your story. Actually, my husband came home one day. We had tried to figure out like ways I could tell my story, because every time I tell my story, I get like, oh my gosh, you need to write a book, or you need to do something.
Right.
Because what I've told you is believe it or not, the very brief version of actual things that happen. And so I tried to figure out, I tried to blog, and that wasn't my thing. I tried a book, that wasn't really my thing. I just kept trying things. And finally one day he goes, you should do a podcast. I had never listened to a podcast. Like, I was like, I mean, I know people talk, but what's a podcast? And he just told me, and he's like, let's just get a microphone and try it. So we got like our old computer that we had, our microphone, and I recorded my first episode. And my first episode went pretty viral. The first episode I released within like, I think it was like 48 hours. And I was shocked, and I was like, whoa, what is happening? And I started getting like messages and responses and all these things. So then I just was like, whoa, I think this is something that people need to hear. So it was kind of ironic that literally as soon as I start telling my story and I start talking to other people about their stories, because then I was like, you know what, I'm going to give this platform to other survivors as well. He was doing this. So it was a very ironic time that, like, the exact same time I was fighting for justice and going to court with other people and teaching them how to recover from their trauma, I'm being re-victimized, quote unquote, by my original perpetrator. And so it was just a crazy situation. I did end up getting him back in prison. He is now in there for life. He has like a total of like 100 and something years. Which is awesome. I was interviewed by ABC, a lot of different news outlets. They had actually got a hold of my story and released it before I even knew. And then I actually contacted them and was like, let me get the story straight, because you guys are not telling the situation right. So I ended up being on ABC and a few other places, radio stations and stuff. And from there, that's when I think I realized, like, Candle in a Dark Room it can't just be a podcast. Like, yes, I was sharing people's stories, and it was amazing because this is the first time people were telling their stories of abuse. This is the first time they'd ever talked about it publicly. And I was giving them that safe platform. And I remember people leaving, and I love seeing people leaving my office and like literally seeing that weight lifted off their shoulders. And so I knew I had to do something bigger. And again, I had been a counselor at at Primary Children's and at the U. And then I was a crisis worker at the U. So I had been doing this for 11 years. And I finally was like, you know what, I'm gonna make this an organization and actually do personally help survivors with this stuff. And so I did. Now we have a nonprofit organization, and we accompanying survivors in court. I'm starting a group. I'm going to start a one-on-one support group, as well as a group,
Nice.
where people, like as many people as they want, can come, and it's going to be virtual, of course, because I have people all over the country who will come and can talk about their stories and have support from others to know that they're not by themselves and they're not alone. So, the reason for me to do what I do is because I remember being in that darkness, like by myself for so many years. And I remember literally never seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and just being like, just hang on, like, this can't be forever, like, and just talking to myself out of it, praying, asking God, help me, like, how do I get through this? How do I get away from him? How do I save myself? All those things. And I now want to be that light for people, and not only me be that light, but I want people to see that they can be that light for themselves. If they choose to heal, if they choose to do the work to heal through your trauma, you can literally live a normal, good life because of the work I've chosen to do. I do therapy. I do take an antidepressant still to keep me and my PTSD stable. I didn't for about 10 years, and then I realized I needed it again. I've done the continuous work, and I continue to do the work because I know it works. I know that's what you need to be a survivor. You can't just put a Band-Aid on it for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? And so I want people to know, like, if you just keep hanging on in the darkest of darkness, and you just keep having faith, if you look hard enough and you do the work, you will find that flicker of light that will help guide you out of that dark tunnel, no matter what. And is it going to be something you have to do for the rest of your life? Absolutely. This is something the work I have to do all the time. Like today, I had to go to my doctor and get a new anxiety medication because for some reason my anxiety has been through the freaking roof where like I feel like I'm crawling out of my own skin. And so I talked to my doctor about it. And I'm not ashamed to do that. Even though I'm a counselor myself, like I've learned that it's okay to ask for help. And it took me a really long time to get to that place. So hence Candle in Dark Room. That is why I chose that is, again, you can just be that little flicker of light for yourself and for your story to have the strength to just get up every day and fight for your freedom. I saved myself. I am the one who had to give myself that bravery and that courage to finally use my own voice and say, I'm done. And I'm no longer going to be a victim. I'm going to change my narrative. I'm going to be a survivor, and I'm going to be one of the ones that lived through it and isn't killed in the process and all of those things. So
you are a triumph of bravery.
Thank you. So yeah, that's where I am now. And I'm hoping to open a facility, which we're hoping within the next year we can open the facility. And that's something that we'll have. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes because I don't want to forget anything. But there'll be like therapists there on like crisis teams there. I want to have like somebody there for if you come in and say, hey, I've just been raped, or I just escaped my abuser and I don't know where to go. We give you that safe house, that safe haven. We'll have long-term courses and like resources and all those things for healing. So it's not just going to be, okay, well, we're going to go to court with you. You fought for your case. Have a good life. Like we're going to help you continue, because this is something I wish I would have had. I wish I would have continued to have support groups after I got out of rehab. I wish I would have, after I got out of the hospital, I was able to go somewhere and talk about what was happening to me, that I was getting nervous that he was getting out of prison and all of those things. I didn't have anything like that. You know, there's stuff like AA for drug addicts and alcoholics and all those things, but there's nothing for survivors. And, you know, all the stuff that there is, it's if you're in a psych ward or you're in a mental hospital or you're in a rehabilitation center, something like that. It's nothing that you can just like really walk into and participate in. So we're going to do that at the facility. I'm actually starting a group coursing program in the next, like, I think I'm going to start in about 2 weeks or less. We're trying to finalizing all the details, but it's going to be an online support group where you'll sign up and you'll be able to come I think we're going to do it every other week. And it's going to be a safe place. You don't have to talk, but you're welcome to talk. Hey, this is what's going on in my story. Hey, I was triggered by this week. How do you guys handle triggers? You know, get advice from people who are in the midst of it, just like you are. Because again, I can teach you, we can learn, and I can teach you how to work through your trauma, but I can never teach you how to get over it. That's not something we'll ever get over. It's something we have to continuously do the work with to heal. It's something for the rest of my life. I'm going to have to remind myself that I'm a survivor and that I can get through it every day. So this is the kind of stuff we want to offer. And then I'm also starting a one-on-one coaching program, which is going to be finding purpose in your trauma. And that is where I talk to survivors and I literally help you. And I don't want to be, because I'm not a therapist necessarily for this. It's not going to be like therapy, but it is going to be counseling with like counseling groups and things like that. Right. And then I'm going to give you, and then I'm going to give you work to do for the 6 to 8 week course. And I'm going to help you figure out your purpose and finding your purpose in what's happened to you. And it doesn't have to be a podcast. It doesn't have to be a show. It doesn't have to be all these big dramatic things. It can be just you living a good life, and finding the light at the end of the tunnel for other people in your life. Like you could just be that one person that someone needs to talk to. So yeah, the one-on-one coaching is great. I've helped a couple of different women who have just been able to look at their childhood trauma in a different way of, this is not my identity. My identity is not a victim. I can choose what my identity is now, and which is a survivor, a fighter, you know, whatever it is that you want to be. So that's what the whole point of the coaching program is literally I'll give you the support, the guidance, the work, everything you need to do to find who you are, deep inside before your trauma. You know what I mean? And if you can find that person again. Yes, will she be different or he be different because of what's happened to him? Absolutely. Will she be different because of what happened to her? Absolutely. But you can still be that person. You can still be light. You can still be positive. You can still be a mom, get married, and live a joyful, happy life, even considering the shitty shit that's happened to you. And then, of course, at the facility, we want to do like speaking, people come in and do speaking things, different courses like that, self-defense classes to teach you how to protect yourself. So yeah, all of that is what our facility is going to be. And yeah, so right now, if you are in the midst of this or someone who's been through some type of sexual trauma, domestic abuse, whatever the trauma is, I've helped all different kinds of traumas, including just mental health. That's traumatic itself. Mental health is its own trauma. And so if you have mental health issues, we help you with those as well and can help kind of just guide you again through all of the darkness. So there's lots of things we offer. I'm really proud of Candle Dark Room and what it's turned into the past 2 years. And so many big, important people have like reached out to me. And it's so crazy that I'm kind of starting to get in that circle. Again, if you would have asked me when I was 15 years old, what I want to do when I grow up, what I want to be, who will I be, I'd have no idea. I always knew I wanted to be a mom, but I never could picture it. I could never picture myself. You know how a lot of times people are like, oh, I used to picture myself. I used to think I was a dream of being this or dream of being that. Unfortunately, that was not the case for me. I literally couldn't dream past where I was in that moment. I couldn't picture what I was going to look like as an adult. I couldn't picture any of those things. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I think my purpose in being in this world is to just show people that no matter how really crappy your circumstances are, whether you're born into trauma, whether you've been exposed to trauma or whatever the situation is, you can find light. So reach out to people like me, Michelle, and we will help guide you to find that because you can't do it by yourself. And that's something you have to realize too, is it's okay to ask for help and to get guidance from people who've been there. So.
Oh, you're incredible. You be proud of yourself, not just the
Thank you.
organization, yourself.
Thank you.
You are
I always try to like shorten my story, but that's like the shortest I can go.
No, it's okay.
Because
We have
it's like
7 minutes.
Okay, because I'm like it's so long and I literally left out so much. So if you guys
I would have you on
want
forever,
details,
but Instagram doesn't have that.
yeah. If you guys want more details of my story, please go to my podcast, or my page, excuse me, Candle in a Dark Room page. Follow me, and then also the link in my bio will take you to my podcast. And then the first few episodes are kind of what happened to me, and then I interview some amazing survivors through the rest of it. So check that out for more specific
And I just
details.
want to, yes, definitely go check her page out. I just want to make sure I don't skip over anybody. Everyone's just showing you a lot of love.
Adika, you are super strong. None of that can be your fault, bro. Thank you so much, Adika. You are a very strong young lady. And you're huge.
Jim would love to be in that Zoom support meeting. You should, Jim.
Yes, please, Jim. I'll be
Rebecca,
posting
RGA, it. Thank you for being brave for yourself and others. Yeah.
Thank you, Buddha Bullying.
Jim said, I understand I'm 59 and I just told my wife and daughter 5 years ago that I was molested by a male cousin from 9 to 11 years old. I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. Kylie, she wasn't adopted, her abuse. Yes, so I was not adopted. I'm a survivor of child sexual abuse from my stepfather.
She's a warrior, not a survivor. When you were and wasn't successful, it's because God had bigger plans for you. You were helping so many other to heal, especially when you have what you have endured. You were a brave and strong individual. Yes, she is, Anastasia.
Oh, thank you so much. I don't see all those. Maybe that's from yours.
Yeah, it's all mine.
Okay, so I was like, whatever, you might have to tell me if people have any other questions because I only see.
I don't see any.
I think just people that follow me, I can see. So
probably.
But does anybody have any questions?
Love, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
But anyway, well, thanks for having me on. Like I said, I appreciate
everyone, thank you so much for joining in tonight and showing Desi so much love and support. She's really an amazing person. I'm so honored to have been, gotten so close with her recently and she has helped me and is helping me in more ways than you guys know. And maybe one day you will find out how.
Soon.
But
Well,
soon,
next week. That's the goal.
very soon.
Next year.
But you are seriously amazing. You are a
Thank
godsend,
you.
and just keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you
You're
so
amazing.
much. Thank
I
you.
love you.
Love
And
you. And if you guys are interested in my groups, please
yeah,
just keep an eye out. I'm going to be announcing the sign up sheet and everything soon because, again, it's not just trauma of sexual or any physical abuse. Like I help trauma of adoptees, or I've helped basically all different types of trauma. So please join us for all of those, for those groups, because I think anybody could definitely use it.
and if
So
you have any more questions, reach out to Desi at Candle in the Dark Room. Ask me, and I'll forward it on to her. I'm gonna save this live, so whoever joined in
yes.
late or didn't get the chance to join on it, or just wants to go back and rewatch it, it will
Mm-hmm.
be there, and she will be tagged. So
Yeah, I'll share online as well. So
yes. Okay. Have a nice night, everyone.
all
Desi.
right. Thank you. Mwah.
Bye.
Love you, girl. Bye.
Love you. Bye.